'Cause we're gonna be legends, gonna get their attention. What we're doing here ain't just scary, it's about to be legendary. Yeah, we're gonna be legends.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to go over a question that's been going through my direct messages a lot recently. People are wondering how to get involved in karting, or that they're already involved in karting and they just want more advice on some tips to take that'll better them in the sport and help them become a professional go-kart racer by the end of their career. So today I'm actually going to do two videos. The first video is going to be a beginner video for beginner karters, just to get through the basic stuff in karting that would help prepare them for a long career in kart racing that'll get them the furthest they possibly can in racing. And then I'm also going to do an intermediate video for people who are just struggling trying to break into that top tier of drivers. I'm going to break it down into 7 tips, just some steps that I wish I would have taken, and some things I wish I would have known before I got going in karting. There's a lot of things that I did that I regret doing, and that really just delayed me from growing as a driver. So again, this is for more beginner drivers, just who are kind of starting in karting, and I hope to do another video here soon for a little bit more intermediate drivers that are wanting to get further in karting. So let's get going. So tip number 1 is obviously the most basic step to get involved in karting. You have to buy the go-kart. A lot of people buy used chassis because obviously they're a lot cheaper than a new one, and then later on in their career buy a new chassis. My advice to you guys is, as soon as you can get a new frame under your seat, it's better for your career. The problem that a lot of people make is they stay on an old chassis and they just keep buying used chassis over and over and over and over and over again, and inevitably when they go to a new chassis for a big race, it's very difficult to make that transfer over. So I'd suggest, as soon as you can possibly get a new chassis, the better it would be for your career. It's definitely gonna benefit you because you don't pick up the bad habits that you learn trying to make up for a bad chassis. For me, I drove a used chassis for a good part of my junior career, and about halfway through it I went to a new chassis for a big race, and I actually struggled a lot with just the feeling of the go-kart, and it was quite difficult for me. If I would have went to YouTube sooner, I definitely would have had a better understanding of the go-kart and how it felt, and it wouldn't have taken such a long time for me to progress from one chassis to the other. Tip number 2, buy the engine that everybody else is running. So when I first started karting, Rotax was the #1 engine in the state and across the country. So basically any track I went to, almost anywhere except for the Northeast for a couple years, was all Rotax. I also had the luxury of living in Florida, which was a big Rotax state, so it helped me a lot just being able to compete in almost any race in the state that was going on. But buy the engine that's the biggest in the country. You want to be able to compete in as many races as possible. Right now, the biggest engine there is probably the X30. Also, Rock is really big. I'd suggest buying one of those 2 engines because it would benefit your career if you can race in as many high-level series as possible. Step number 3. This is a difficult one, but basically buy 2 of everything. For me and my dad, it was very difficult for us to buy a lot of everything. Obviously, racing is an expensive sport, so I don't expect you to have 2 of everything. But as soon as we bought 2 chassis, had 2 engines, had just spare parts for everything, it made our racing a lot smoother. The problem is you go out on one chassis and you're racing in the back of the field, so you crash a lot more. So you have to end up buying new parts. You could total your chassis, and then it could put you out for the whole day. If you can get a deal on getting 2 chassis instead of 1, try and do that, because inevitably you're going to have to buy another one at some point, and it benefits you just to have 2 ready to go for parts. For if you crash the first chassis or you total it, you'll have the second one ready to go. It also gives you the ability to run 2 different classes. A lot of the state series have 2 different classes just with different weights or different engines, and just having a separate chassis altogether gives you that ability to run 2 different classes and get the most track time that's possible. Tip number 4 is a thing that I think will benefit a lot of people. One of the biggest problems that a lot of people have is you don't know what to do to the chassis. You're not surrounded by a group of people that can teach you driving, and you don't have the ability to learn all these things without somebody teaching it to you. So I'd suggest join a team that knows how to win and has success in races. I luckily was able to have a mechanic that kind of helped me throughout my career. His name's Gary Willis, and he actually gave me a lot of little tips here and there that really helped develop me. I didn't have to join a big team because I had a mechanic that was really dedicated to pushing me as a driver and making me get better. If I didn't have him, I definitely should have joined a big team. It would have helped me a lot because I would have been able to learn a lot of just the little things that you don't know unless you have somebody tell you. Just to give a shout out to my team, PSL Karting, there is a lot of winning that happens and has happened under that tent. They have proven that they know what they're doing. So when you get under their team, not only are you getting the best help, but you're also getting a lot of great advice that you can carry on into your karting career. When you join a team like PSL Karting, I'm actually the coach on the tent, but you get a coach that comes and teaches you all these little things that you don't necessarily know unless you're taught by somebody. You can go the cheap route and set up your own tent, but the problem is you don't learn these key factors that help you grow as a driver. The problem is that a lot of people have is they try and go cheap and they don't end up learning these key steps. Yeah, it was cheaper, but you're inevitably delaying your career by years by not joining a big team that can help you out. I didn't have to do it because I had a mechanic that helped me and pushed me as a driver, but if you don't feel confident with the person you have that's pushing you as a driver, join a big team like PSL Karting that will help you develop your driving skills, develop your mechanicking skills, and help you throughout the race. Tip number 5. The tip is to stay away from the large national series in the beginning of your career. For me, I never left the state of Florida for a long time. I didn't leave for 5 years. I never raced out of the state of Florida. I never traveled that much out of the state of Florida. I stayed within what I was capable of doing and ended up succeeding in the state level. And once I got finished succeeding in the state level, I decided it was time to go to a national series. I did grow up with the Florida Winter Tour, so I did get a taste of what it was like at a big national series, but I didn't ever travel out of state to bigger races across the nation. For example, my first race out of the state was the Rotax Nationals. There's about 60 juniors, and I ended up finishing 4th. That wouldn't have happened if I would have gone earlier in my career. But because I waited till I was ready to go to this race, I ended up being more prepared and had a much better result in it. And we didn't spend all that money running around the top 20 in these races in the earlier years of my career, but we were able to save it and race a lot more local stuff and just pound in those basic techniques that you learn. And when we finally went to the national level, I was able to use those techniques and really succeed in the race itself. So obviously, try and get a little bit of taste of what a big national series is like, but until you're ready for it and you feel that you're confident in your equipment and yourself, don't run a full series. You're just going to be wasting money. Try and stay at a local level, grind in those basics and those techniques that you learn, and wait till you need it and then go to the national level. Tip number 6. This is pretty simple. Practice. Practice, 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 practice. The best thing you can do is get in the seat. You can't buy seat time. You can buy a good engine, you can buy a good chassis, and you can pay to be under a good team. But the number one thing is seat time. If you're not in the seat, you're not going to be learning and you're not going to succeed in karting. You have to practice all the time. In my beginning years of karting, I was at the track almost every weekend, just hanging out with friends, making it fun, but inevitably I was putting in seat time every weekend. That's what really benefited my career because I was able to learn stuff like braking. I was able to learn throttle application. I was able to learn late turn-in. I was able to learn how to be smooth with my hands. These are all things that only come from seat time. I didn't go to a ton of races and just try and scramble together what position I could. I ended up just waiting and just practicing, and then I was able to develop good habits and good techniques. I also did surround myself with the right mechanic again who was able to hone in these skills while I was out there. But yeah, it definitely comes down to practice. If you don't practice, then you're not gonna succeed in the sport. And number 7, follow this channel. I really wish I had this channel back when I started karting. I didn't have any advice other than my mechanic and kind of what I figured out on my own. I really would have wished I had this. So please like and subscribe to this channel. Comment any questions. I love answering them. This whole segment here was brought to you because of all the questions I got. Follow my Instagram and Facebook. I'll put the link to both accounts in the description below. I love to see the support you guys give me. It's really inspiring, and I hope to keep doing more videos like this. So that's basically the 7 tips for a beginner to get started in karting. I'm hoping to do another video where it'll be 7 more tips for somebody who's a little bit more developed in their career, and just give them some advice to take them to the next level in karting. So thank you guys for watching. See you guys next time.
'Cause we're gonna be